So we have Emily Lampkin here with us today on the ROKK Rundown, her new book, Duct Tape and White Lies. You know, as a lot of you know, several years back, we started Women Who Rock. And this is an organization within ROKK Solutions where we're looking to lift up women, helping women connect with other women on all different levels. And so it was really apropos that Emily come in and talk to us today. And so I'll just kick it off with some questions. Let's start broad. Tell us about this book and why you decided to take up this endeavor.
I have worked in Washington my whole career, and I was studying what made women successful. And not just the ones with the fancy titles, but who was thriving. I put that together in a workshop and went out and taught it, and it took off like gangbusters. And as part of that, women were asking me for the book, because rather than manifesting things, what I was teaching was the step-by-step guide of, okay, how do I actually go about getting that thing I wanted? So that is how the book happened.
What do you think that you learned from writing this book? You know, as we take on different things in our lives, and they're not all easy. And you wrote this book in 45 days, which is remarkable. What was the evolution?
It was a whole new industry. And frankly, it's not an industry that makes figuring it out easy. Mm-hmm. The one way I've been describing it is there is no doubt you can't snowplow your way to success, because I snowplowed my way to success with this book in a period of time that is much shorter than most books get published, published in, and also made sure that people understood you can make it a great success. This book debuted on the USA Today and LA Times bestseller list because the material actually appealed to women.
That's really, really remarkable. You know, I've always said that I love this snowplowing your way to success, because in any job, I've had my whole career in Washington, D.C., I've never known exactly what I'm doing when I get there, right? When I get there and then you learn, I find it's boring. If not, what is the advice that you would give? I'll ask this a two-part question. Young women entering the workforce, and particularly in Washington or in public affairs, public relations.
One of the things I think is really important, and frankly, I believe we've done in certain ways as a society a disservice to younger women, because we skewed messages about what success is and how you attain it. It's no different in terms of you're going to have to decide you're going to out-hustle everybody else. Mm-hmm. And that means putting in extra time, paying attention to what's going on, making sure that you're gaining information and people, because access to information and people is really powerful in the business that we're in. And it also provides this super necessary, especially today, perspective on people's and thoughts in this town.
Yeah, I totally agree. You also talk a lot about convening. And I say convening because a lot of people in our industry are like somehow just picking their heads up and realizing that this is something they need to do. We talk a lot about salon dinners and small dinners, and we do that a lot at ROKK, and you do that a lot, and I do it in my personal life, and you do it in your personal life. Why do you think that this is something that all of a sudden is becoming in vogue, particularly in Washington, D.C., when a lot of us have been doing it forever with our clients and with other people?
I didn't know it was becoming in vogue. I like that people are doing it, because that's where the real power is as a connector, is bringing people together, and being at that intersection is where you understand where information and where people are. That's the first part of this whole, convening people. The other question I often get asked, it's here, it's all over the globe, is I don't get invited to things. I'm not one of those people. There are lots of things I don't get invited to. There's only one way to make sure that you are in a room with the people you want to be in and creating that, and that's you got to do it yourself.
Yeah, I really like that. So as you're talking to, people who have already established themselves in Washington, and those of us who are kind of looking for different ways to get involved in different things and work with different people, who would you suggest that we surround ourselves with?
In the book, I lay out different kinds of friends and the need to have a diversification of kind of approaches and expertise. And I'm not talking like having a doctor and having a lawyer, but somebody who asks really personal questions, who you trust. People who, as I described, you two are friends, that you have as friends as well. I think challenging yourself to always make the circle bigger, that's why I call it widening the circle, and always introducing new people into your life is, first of all, keeps everything exciting and fresh, but it also is incredibly helpful for business and for us personally.
You know, you talk a lot about men and women just communicate differently. We do. And recognizing those differences and how we communicate with each other. What do you think are some qualities in women when we embrace them that make us very powerful communicators? What can we use to our advantage?
I think that's a great question, Kristen. And when I'm teaching the workshop, I always describe it to women as we are going to capitalize on what we're really good at, and we're going to steal some of the things men are really good at and put those in our pocket as well. Here's some of the things we're really good at: telling a story. And I talk to women about having a selling you pitch and practicing it with your swimsuit friend. And that selling you pitch is not the reading of the resume, because that is super boring. But telling a story which tells a story of your career, who you are, what's important to you, and leads in the direction of what you're going to make an ask for, what you want out of your life. And that story is no more than 60 seconds. It should be 30 seconds. And anybody in this business should be able to do that. The second thing that women are experts at is the whole read a room empathy. We can read a room really well, and you should use that to your advantage. If somebody looks like they've had a really crummy morning in staff meeting or in a board meeting, they don't have to say it because you already know it, and you may take it easy on them because you can read that in the room.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I feel like, you know, being in DC and working in public affairs for 25 years, I've learned things and I've had to unlearn things as a woman. And one thing that I learned, you know, is it's okay to compliment somebody on their shoes or compliment somebody, you know, on the dress that they're wearing, or a man, you know, and that can be a conversation starter. Like, what are some of the best ways to start a conversation with people? And then some of the best ways to get out of a conversation.
I'm pretty sure if you and I never worked together, we would have already met because we would be sitting at a networking event talking about shoes or something. Compliments are great ways to start a conversation. And the book includes something I call accessories. And these are mini chapters which have lists you can go back to again and again, including conversation starters, how to say no without saying no, how to give a gift that builds a relationship that isn't expensive, A to Z, how to throw a cocktail party that's simple. Because, by the way, people don't like fancy. Fancy is intimidating. And I think we were all raised by Mad Men era moms and grandmothers who said everything has to be fancy, and if your home doesn't look this way,
and you got to have a punch
bowl. And nobody,
you know,
people are intimidated to do that. Yes, it's not happening. But I think people are looking for a genuine human connection, not something that's too personal.
Yeah.
Like it's none of your business how my kid's, you know, SAT prep is going or what score he got. But it is nice to have a conversation and say, oh, we both went to state schools. You know, and the question about what do you do can easily be switched out with a ton of clever ideas, including, have you read something interesting recently? Everybody is watching something on a streaming service. Have you seen something interesting on streaming that I should watch? Have you ever been to this event before?
Yeah. I love the streaming question. You read more than I do, but I love the streaming question. You know, as you were writing this book, you talked to a lot of women who had a lot of different stories that you were saying. Is there anyone that stands out or that was really super interesting to you?
They are stories women have told me in response to the Women Leaders Series workshop. They come back to me and tell me the stories of how they've applied the material to their own life, and they're breathtaking. Women who are on the end of their careers, who have taken whole new risks because of this material. It's all very meaningful.
I love that. And I love the fact that you've talked to so many different women in a lot of different age ranges, you know, and, you know, I think maybe our generation, you know, you're growing up and then there was like an expiration date, right? But we see so many women in the second halves of their careers doing so many wonderful things. So it sounds like you talked to several women who were doing that as well. Do you have anything?
It is, when I'm asked what is the trend that is least covered out there in this space of women leadership, it is women who are 25, 30, 35 years into their career who say, I'm doing something different. And frankly, sometimes they're life things. They're not just, I'm no longer going to work in this work environment. I'm kind of bored. It's stale. I know everything. It's no longer a challenge, or I know enough, or I've always been itching to do something else. And sometimes it's a story like this, and they kind of are looking for permission from somebody to say, and they will all tell me, okay, so I've got this idea, and it's just me. And I'm like, it's so many of us who are looking for this. And one of the stories I tell is a woman who was telling me, you know, she was thinking maybe I want to work somewhere else, like on a different continent. And I said, well, that sounds interesting. And then she came back to me later and said, you know, I'm moving to X. And she said, it's because of you, because you suggested it to me. Well, that's not true, but I liked it because what she wanted was somebody to say, you can go do that, and she went and did it.
Just somebody validating all that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Well, I mean, this is so interesting, and we're so glad to have you here because there's so many different topics of conversation when it comes to women. And, you know, a lot of these topics apply to men and women, but, you know, we are so unique in so many different ways. So last question, what's next? You're on this book tour and you've been hugely successful as a #1 bestseller. You know, what's next for Emily?
A lot more books.
We
are out there talking about this book, sharing the Women Leader series, both in this country and around the globe. Those are my focus. And then, of course, my personal stuff. Getting one kid graduating from college, getting one kid graduating from high school, paying attention to the third as well, all of that stuff. It all happens. We live our life in the messy middle, and I want women to know you can have what you want living your life in the messy middle.
I think that is a great way to end it. I love living life in the messy middle. Thank you so much for being with us today. This has been amazing.
Thank you for choosing to be a woman leader, and thanks for being my friend.
Of course. Thank you for being my friend.